Hello, I'm Patrick Nelson. I'm at the Think Tank Science Museum in Birmingham. I want to help you look more closely at science and the Bible. Many people believe that you can't take them both seriously, so let's find out whether that's really true. A science museum is a great place to start thinking about science and the Bible. We're going to begin by taking a look at a couple of displays that show some scientific achievements. So let's go and take a look at our first display. This spaceman reminds us that scientists can put men into orbit around the Earth and bring them safely back again. The space shuttle Atlantis has taken off for many missions. It spends several days in space on each mission before returning to the Earth. Astronauts test equipment sometimes floating more than 100 miles above the clouds. By putting telescopes into space, scientists have been able to give us some remarkable photographs of the universe around us. Scientists consistently amaze us with their achievements in space travel and by showing us just how incredible our universe is. But now, let's take a look at another amazing scientific discovery at the other end of the size scale. Most of us have heard that scientists have cracked the DNA code, even if we don't know anything about DNA. Although we may not know it, DNA controls every cell in our bodies. The DNA depicted here is a long molecule which contains information. That information is represented by the letters that we see along the bottom of the molecule. Groups of these letters represent genes, and the study of genes is known as genetics. Genes control the production of proteins, which in turn control the cells which make up all of life. Some control the basic functions of cells. Others give cells their special features and capabilities. We're going to take a look at some of those special features later, but for now, this is a simple description of the incredible complexities that scientists have discovered. Space travel and genetics are only two of the areas in which scientists have made amazing discoveries. We all tend to look up to people who do amazing things, and this is why scientists are widely respected by most people. Conversely, the Bible has taken a considerable battering from its scientific critics. Many people have now turned their backs on the Bible, believing that they cannot take science seriously and still believe what it has to say. For example, many people believe that scientists have proved that the universe started with a big bang, and the same people believe that the Bible contradicts this. Many people also think that scientists have proved that all the variety of life on this planet began with a process called evolution. If that is true, then the Bible would have to be wrong in talking about this world and all the life on it having been created. These are some of the things that we're going to take a closer look at throughout this presentation. So these are the questions that we have to consider. To enable us to decide which is more likely, we'd like to think about what the Bible says and about what science says. Now, there's a lot of conflicting information on both subjects. So to help us find the most useful information, we need to distinguish between two different fundamental ideas. Firstly, we need to think about observable facts. Secondly, we need to think about theories. An observable fact is something that can be proved beyond doubt. Observable facts are tangible, they're measurable, and they're repeatable. They are felt through our senses and can be experienced firsthand if necessary. Gravity is a good example of an observable fact. We all experience the effects of gravity every single day of our lives. Whenever we drop something, it always falls to the ground. If we throw a ball in the air, it always comes back to us. Scientists have done enough experiments and understand gravity well enough now to be able to launch rockets and put satellites into orbit around the Earth. So gravity is tangible, it's experienced and measurable. It's an observable fact. A scientist creates a theory or an opinion about something that he wants to look at in more detail. That theory is based on a set of assumptions and should be the best explanation of the observable facts. But sometimes we have no way of knowing if the set of assumptions that have been used are correct. This is often the case when considering something that occurred in the past, because we cannot do experiments to test the theory, and we have no way of checking the assumptions. It's important to know what can be proved and what is only a theory that we can't prove. Why? Because if we treat a theory as a fact, we may come to the wrong conclusion. We want to look at a couple of examples where theories lacking vital information were trusted, with disastrous consequences. In England in the mid-19th century, some public health authorities believed in the miasma theory of disease. This was a theory that said disease was caused by a poisonous vapour, which they named miasma. This seemed to explain why cholera became epidemic in places where water was contaminated by sewage. The public health authorities believed that cholera was caused by the foul smell, the vapour that came off the water, rather than the water itself. In the same era, some doctors accepted the dyscrasia theory, which said that disease was caused by an imbalance in the body's temperament. These people did their best with the limited knowledge that they had. They were unaware even that they lacked vital information about viruses and bacteria. They trusted theories that were not based on all the facts. They saw no problem in drinking water that had been contaminated with sewage. The result of that was that tens of thousands of people died in the 4 cholera epidemics that broke out in England between 1831 and 1854. Neither did they see a problem in moving from a dead body to a living one without first washing their hands. As a result, up to 1 in 3 women died in hospital giving birth. Countless people died because doctors and public health authorities lacked vital facts when forming their theories. These 2 examples show that we need all the facts to come up with a correct theory. They also show us that we may not even be aware that we don't have all the facts. And so we see that it's important to separate facts from theories. Now that we understand the difference between facts and theories, let's see what this means for us. Firstly, we are going to look at the observable facts behind the theories of the Big Bang and evolution and see what conclusions we can draw. Secondly, we are going to look at what the Bible says about the start of things. Thirdly, we are going to see if there is any conflict between the observable scientific facts and what the Bible says. Finally, we will take a look at the cell, which is the basis of all life, and look at the implications for the theory of evolution. To help us with the first of these, let me introduce you to John Bland.
Well, hello. We're here at Jodrell Bank in Cheshire in the UK, and this behind me is the world-famous Lovell radio telescope. Scientists have been measuring things about the universe from this site since 1945, although the Lovell telescope wasn't commissioned until 1957. And the Lovell telescope is a radio telescope, which means that it's measuring radio waves coming to us from outer space. And there are several radio telescopes around the world, of which this one is actually one of the biggest. And it's observations of both normal light and radio waves from these modern telescopes that can help us understand our universe. This information has led scientists to formulate a theory called the Big Bang. And we're going to have a look at this, remembering as we do the difference between facts and theories that Patrick explained earlier. Now, there are actually 2 main observations or facts that have led scientists to formulate the Big Bang theory. In addition to that, there are 2 supporting observations or facts. Let's look at the main evidence first. And the first observation, which was made using telescopes like this, was made of distant galaxies. And when scientists looked at these galaxies, they found that the light looked slightly different from normal light. And the simplest way to describe this difference is to say that the light looked slightly red. And this is known as the red shift. The observation of this red shift is fact number 1. Now, fact number 2. When we look into outer space using other telescopes, we detect a radiation. And this is known as the cosmic microwave background radiation, and this background radiation is actually fact number 2. Now, there are 2 additional facts that I mentioned. The first of these involves the elements in the universe, things like hydrogen, helium, nitrogen, carbon, oxygen, and so on. And what scientists have noticed is that the universe contains mainly elements that are light in weight. In fact, hydrogen and helium, the lightest elements, are by far the most common in the detectable universe. The second supporting fact that is often mentioned is the fact that galaxies seem to be evenly spread throughout space. And it doesn't matter in which particular direction we look, the spread of galaxies looks basically the same. So these then are the 4 facts, 3 of which we observe using modern telescopes such as this one here. Now let's look at the assumptions which lie behind this theory of the Big Bang, which, as we have seen, is derived from 4 observations or facts. The first major assumption is that nothing has ever happened to change the physical laws that we have today. A second assumption is that these laws are consistent, meaning the same, throughout the whole of the universe. A third assumption that is made is that the redshift is caused by the light source moving away from us. So using these 3 assumptions, together with our 4 observable facts, it becomes obvious that if our universe is expanding, then if we roll back time, everything can be traced to a single point in space-time from which it all started. And that is what we call the Big Bang. So that is the Big Bang theory, based on the observable facts that we see around us today. But we do need to understand that it's based on the assumption that you can look back in time. All we're doing is creating this theory based on what we can see today. And not only that, we can't do any experiments or tests on this theory. So whilst scientists believe that the red shift is caused by the light source moving away from us, no one can actually prove that that is true. Scientists are doing the best with the available information. But the Big Bang theory is based on only a few facts, and it's also based on untestable assumptions. So we do need to be careful because, like the miasma and dyscrasia theories that we looked at earlier, we may be missing some important information. Therefore, the Big Bang theory remains just that, a theory, and cannot be regarded as a fact. So having thought about the Big Bang theory, we'll now leave Jodrell Bank and its magnificent telescope, and we'll look at a very different site that I visited a few months ago, and there we'll look at the theory of evolution. We've actually now come to Urkel Nature Reserve, which is west of Telford in the United Kingdom. And part of this reserve is actually an old quarry. And there are some very interesting rocks on the hills behind me. Let's take a closer look. Geologists call these types of rocks Lower Cambrian, and many fossils are found in this type of rocks, fossils that we refer to obviously as Cambrian fossils. And typical of the type of fossils found in these type of rocks are trilobites. And this particular one was found in slate in Utah in America, not here, in fact, at the Urkel in the UK. So many different types of fossils have been